Good afternoon, welcome back to the show. 12:51 is the time. We talked a lot about the budget today, also about migration. But there's one bit of good news on that front. Delighted to having joined me now is Dr. Alan Mendoza. He's Executive Director of the Henry Jackson Society and actually also just taken on a role advising the Reform Party, very interestingly. Good afternoon to you, Alan.
Hello, Julia.
Hello. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, this is a rare bit of good news from the courts on a migration front. Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, has managed to overturn a human rights ruling that granted Palestinians fleeing Gaza refuge in Britain. She's been backed by the Court of Appeal in restricting the ability of migrants to use the European Convention on Human Rights, our old friend, to come and live in the UK. This is particularly involving one Palestinian family who basically won an immigration tribunal ruling to come here under a scheme meant for Ukrainian refugees on the basis that they did have a relative here. So how significant is this?
Well, it is significant. Firstly, the original ruling was an absolute travesty. The idea that you could apply under a Ukrainian scheme when you weren't a Ukrainian, didn't matter who you were, and could then be given permission to come to the UK was, I think, demonstrated to most people how out of control the system was. So, outrageous initial decision. Government appealed it, and I think rather perhaps even to her surprise, the appeal court has decided that she's right, and there are limits apparently, after all, to Article 8 of the ECHR.
Who knew?
I mean, who knew?
But again, there's also what's fascinating. It was right to a family life. This isn't about a mum being able to bring her children in. This is about two brothers. So I'm a Palestinian family in Gaza.
Two grown-up brothers.
Two grown-up brothers, yeah. Two grown-up brothers. But my brother lives in England, in the UK, and I want to come and join you. My stepsister lives in New York. I've not got a right to go and live in New York.
Well, had you applied under British immigration law, you might have done. Who knew? But the reality is that ruling was very dangerous because it literally meant that you could have had any kind of relatives anywhere in the world and they could come to the UK and claim the right to family life. So it is pleasing that this judgment has been secured. It's also, of course, now case law, which is helpful going forwards. This case will be used by other judges to determine other similar cases. Now, it doesn't solve the problem, of course, because there are still family law rights in terms of that ECHR that will need to be tackled. But look, it's good news, as you said, and how often do we get good news from these judgments?
Well, indeed. And this is in particular in relation to Gaza, because we know this isn't, again, no, it's not, it's not Islamophobic. This is a particularly radicalised, militarised society, I mean, across the scale, who have happily voted for Hamas and would vote for Hamas again, probably, to be their government. And I'm not entirely sure the British people are thinking, we should have in a load of people from Gaza, because their argument was basically their quality of life was so terrible, and living in Gaza and during the war, post-war, whatever happened, it's too awful. Well, that's an argument that all 2 million people in Gaza could make, surely.
Well, I mean, that is, the problem. I mean, things are bad there, no doubt about it. Although now, since the conflict has stopped, things getting better, which is also something to take into account. But you're right, that could have literally been used by anyone, and not simply in Gaza once again. It could have been anyone in any war zone or any kind of crisis zone anywhere in the world saying, I've done here, I've got a random relative in Britain, I'm going to come to Britain because... my life here is in crisis and you should take me in. So that's a problem.
And the absurd thing, of course, is as each person is taken in, you then extend it. We're told it's not that very many people.
Or chain migration.
And then another person around them. And of course, we've had the students, these young Gazan students who've been brought over here to London universities where they're studying, some postgraduate degrees. And it's absolutely fascinating. And then they said, well, we were told we couldn't bring our kids, but now we want to bring our kids. And there was one woman on the radio the other day, and she was saying about, she hadn't seen her child for a couple of years. And you think, sorry, what sort of mother leaves their young child in a war zone so they can go and do a postgraduate degree? I've never heard anything more obscene.
It's a bizarre personal choice, I would agree, and not one that you or I or many right-thinking people would follow. But look, again, that's an interesting point. They were given visas on the understanding they would not be able to bring family members, and then suddenly they were allowed or encouraged to bring family members. It really is, again, encouraging people to come into this country through the back door. And the other issue specific to Gaza is, of course, that, as you said earlier, this is a militarised society, and it was a society full of hate. And we have no clue who the people coming into this country from Gaza really are, what they believe in, whether they participated in things around October the 7th. I mean, you will know the stories. You've heard the stories of the hostages who were held by civilians in their homes, by doctors, lawyers, accountants, other people. Ordinary people were
UN staff, UNRWA staff.
who on earth, are the people coming in here? We don't know the answer to those questions, and one has to be very sceptical as a result because you just don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Just must finally ask you, we've had a load of figures from the ONS and the OBR, or every other organisation with an O in the name, about where we are with migrants and net migration. But the fascinating figures that we got last night, that some 50-odd thousand illegal migrants not supposed to be in this country, definitely not supposed to be, are supposed to be leaving, including some foreign criminals. Home Office doesn't know where they are. They've just disappeared into the ether. Bit worrying.
Very worrying because, of course, we've seen some illegal migrants who have committed crimes. So, obviously, again, who are these people? We don't know. We don't know who they are, their backgrounds, whether they have criminal records or not. Yep. And it's just a basic problem, isn't it? If you lose control of people who are supposed to be monitoring and they then are allowed to melt away, you don't know what the next step is.
Absolutely.
So it's basic, it's really bread and butter stuff. We need to be much better at this. And ideally, of course, they need to be, if they've arrived illegally and aren't allowed to stay, they need to be got out straight away.
Absolutely. Dr. Alan Mendoza from the Henry Jackson Society, thank you very much indeed. Henry